Couple of bubbles. Got the bubbles. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our morning Investing Bros live show. I'm back. It is me. In case you guys don't know who I am, I'm Tim. Usually on the show on the first face you see. But while I was gone in Maine doing some snowboarding, snowmobiling, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. T-Shroom did a phenomenal job running the show. He had some great guests on. I got to watch some of it in the background while I was up there. Not all of it, but it was good stuff. But it is good to be back. It's going to be short-lived, though, because I'm here today, gone tomorrow for work. But then starting on Monday, we should be back to a normal little schedule going on. But how are you guys doing? First of all, it's been a great week. I come back from Maine. I bring back the bulls, I guess, in crypto. Bitcoin last night skyrocketed back up over 24,000, getting close, but not quite to 25,000. Ethereum did touch 1,700, and Cardano getting all the way up to 42 cents. Is the crypto bull run back? We're going to talk about that and a lot more in today's show. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Make sure you smash that like button right now. That's that four-fingered mitten that right now on your screen, right below us. It might just be like a white line with some gray in the middle. If you click on it, like that, it's the left, but if you click it, it turns all white. And that's much appreciated. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel where you get daily dose of Bitcoin, crypto, stock market, and everything you need to know about investing to get your day started. If that's something you guys love, you want to be a part of this channel. I'm going to throw it to my co-host, T-Shroom. How are you doing this morning, T-Shroom?
I'm doing better than I deserve, Tim.
Ooh, yes.
And I am very happy that you're back because I do not have to take care of your dogs anymore.
Yeah, I didn't even get to hear the stories yet. He told me there's some stories about my two puppers.
Yeah, and if we can get those likes up, I might tell them live on air. We'll see. We got a quote of the day here, guys. I would never leave you high and dry without a quote of the day, and that is, to appreciate the beauty of a snowflake, it is necessary to stand out in the cold.
It's true. I know that firsthand now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I've seen snow before, but I'm fresh up on my knowledge of that quote.
And that was from your boy Aristotle, apparently said that. I question whether or not he said that. Does it snow in Greece like that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've never once been to Greece.
Yeah, maybe he traveled. Maybe he traveled pretty north. But anyway, that's our quote of the day.
Good
and
quote.
It's snow-themed, as you'll notice, from some Florida boys down here in Gainesville, Florida.
Listen, here's the thing about cold. And by the way, thank you to Mr. Bitcoin who just gave a super chat with volatility is the price you pay for the outperformance. That's awesome. So living in Florida, and those who have been to Florida or lived in Florida, you guys will be able to attest to this and say amen. There's a big difference between Florida cold and then like northern states cold.
That's right.
When I got up there, it was like 20 degrees. Did not feel that bad. I went out the first morning in like 21 degrees to dig a trail to the fire pit, right? I got it like 10 minutes in, and I'm sweating bullets. I had to go back in and put like shorts on, roll my sleeves up with my sweatshirt. It's just when you don't have the humidity adding into the cold, it's a completely different ballgame. In Florida, if it's 20 degrees, it doesn't matter how many layers you're wearing, your bones are shattering. Like your bones are like crackling on each other.
Wow.
Because the cold
That's graphic.
and the water just gets right through the clothes, right through the skin, right through the muscle and the flesh and everything, and goes straight to your bone. Up north, listen, dude, if you can keep the wind away, you're fine, man.
Yeah,
You're fine.
I will say I've spent a lot of time up north in the cold, in -1 degrees in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and in Gainesville in Florida, and it is a different cold. It's a
Very different.
humid cold, and it is. I would take the northern cold
Absolutely.
over the southern cold because of just the humidity factor.
Dude, just sitting, that was the other great thing. I dug that pit. I just got to sit outside in the cold. I love the cold. I was built for it. I'm a mountain man, I think, at heart.
I think so too.
So someday I'm coming back for you, North.
But was the snowboarding good? Did you get some
good
snowboarding?
It was. So I got some good in. Here's the frustrating part, and we're going to get back into crypto here in a second. But for those of you who snowboard, it's easier to go fast, right? So you want to go fast, but if you can't see where there's bumps and stuff, you got to kind of be cautious. There was a period of time I got very frustrated. My quads got very sore because the whole mountain got shadowed, and my visors have like a tint to them. and I couldn't see if it was smooth or if it was like bumpy. So I just went ahead and prepared it was a bumpy because I don't want to fall. And so I just ended up like, digging in the whole way down the mountain. So I have to get to the bottom of my feet. My quads will be killing me. I'm like, where's the sun? Sun, come back out. But it was a good trip. Snowmobiling was fun. That's always a blast. If you guys have never been snowmobiling, you guys have missed out on something amazing in life. And then just getting to relax and not work is always a good time. But
heck yeah.
Now I'm back to work, and I love work. So let's get into this T-shirt. And before I jump in, we're gonna interact with chat here in just a second. What are some headlines that we should be expecting on today's show?
Yep. Well, we're seeing a continuation of a trend of slightly rising inflation, or slightly lowering deceleration of inflation, to put it more accurately. And we'll cover that. That's from the PPI print this morning. Hong Kong has successfully offered an inaugural $100 million tokenized green bond. We'll dig into some of those details. Mm-hmm. And then we've got some positive security news coming from Wyoming. If you don't know, Wyoming has led the way in positive crypto legislation. And then we've got a deep dive into Gary Gensler's latest tweet and its implications, and how Hester Pierce was able to pounce on that and give us some insight onto what exactly it means. Because although Gary made a 3-minute video that we're going to watch, it wasn't extremely clear what exactly was going to take place for your cryptos. And that'll be it. We might talk about some other things if it breaks. But that's going to be our headlines for today, Tim.
You're just teasing on the Gary Gensler video. We're going to watch it. I wish his writing team would spend as much time trying to write in clarity to what he's trying to say as they do trying to write in jokes.
Yeah.
Because he clearly wants to be funny.
Yeah. I don't know why he thinks that people like him. Like the video is very light and fun, and it's like, dude, everybody hates you. Like, everybody. Like,
it was funny. It was like I said, he cracks lots of jokes. The whole thing is just like, why don't you just put this same effort into actually telling us what you're trying to say? That would be nice. It'd be nice. All right, let's go ahead and interact with some chat here. Let's go. And our first comment of the day was Yair Navarro.
Wow.
So how was it when I was gone? Did Mr. J get a lot of the first ones?
No.
Who was predominantly the first commenter while I was
gone? I think it was Mr. B a lot of the time.
Mr. Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there's a Mr. B and a Mr. Bitcoin.
It was not Mr. Bitcoin. It was Mr. B.
It was Mr. B. All right, because those are my next two names. So Yair Navarro was first, but then Mr. B is here with a good morning, bros. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Mr. Bitcoin is here with an old GM. Yep. Motor vehicles.
Oh my
GMC
gosh.
is.
I was so glad to be rid of that joke while you were gone.
Listen, here's the thing, man. Up there in the north, there's a lot of them. I think they're good trucks for the snow because like everywhere you turn, there's another GM.
Yeah.
So
let's do another couple minutes on GM.
Yeah,
let's really dive into it. They got bailed out.
I think
They
that
went
we
bankrupt.
should take a look at their stocks because I think the way that people commented all over the place, you would think that is right. Anyway, let's keep going on here. Who else is here? CBD Suddy is in the chat. Justin Eubanks is here. Who else? Got a lot of people. Crypto Trades. Shout out to Crypto Trades. Mike Play. Brian Hoskins is here live. Eric Wallen saying we missed you, Tim. Thank you so much, man. Missed you guys too. Alton Henderson is here. Prilito 9mm. I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's what I'm going with. Let's see here. Who else? Grand Roofing Incorporated is in the house. Curtis Rorick said, nice call on the 21,500, Tim. By the way, we'll talk more about that.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
I made a couple nice calls. I didn't think I was going to be as good at those calls as I thought. And actually, some of them missed a little bit. So I'm going to take my humble pie here, and I'm explaining to you. There's a couple calls I missed by like that much. And that's why you don't buy bottoms and sell tops perfectly. You don't plan on. Mellow Fellow is also here. Who else? Henry C. Hernandez. Army Piper is in chat. Shout out to Army. Thank you so much for coming. I think you were here for a couple of days I was gone. Yeah. Steve Shrum is here. Joe Shrum. Watkins. Stephen E. Shrum. Two completely different people.
Shrum.
So's Majid. And let's get a couple more here, and then we're going to go into this. Servando Estrada, John Kahn, Crypto JMP, and Al Bundle. Shout out to everybody who is here. I don't think I read all the names, but that does not mean I don't love you. It just means it's time to start with some technical analysis. So go ahead, and if you have not already, smash that like button, that four-fingered mitten. We got 72 people watching. I know those numbers are going to keep on growing, but we only have 53 likes, so we can get those likes up. And if we get those likes, here's what I'll say. If we get to 110 likes, T-Shroom will tell some Beamer stories to end our stream.
Yeah, I will.
And to be looking at his face, it looks like there's some good juicy ones going on over there.
That animal.
He's a good kid, you know. All right, let's go ahead and go to the charts here and take a look at what's happening here on Bitcoin. Let's start before we start evaluating where we're going to the upside. Let's just talk about some of the calls that were made here. And to be fair, I talked about in our Discord, people asked me, Tim, are you buying or long? I said I'm going to enter some. I'm going to buy right here at 21.5. I'll show you guys here in a second even more why. But I liked this level. I did have a feeling that we were going to come down and fill the CME gap that we had down here, and at least technically speaking, still could. Keep your eyes on this. Again, all the way down towards 19,500, all the way up here towards 20,700. This gap has been here ever since back in mid-January. So not about a month now since we've left this gap here. So it's at the bottom. We do think that these prices are near the bottoms of the bear market. 98% of these get filled, but again, I kind of questioned this last week. Do the bottom ones towards the bottom, do they get filled all the time? I think that's not necessarily as likely. We've never had a gap on Bitcoin not be filled, but to be fair, Bitcoin's only been around for, what is it now, like 14, 15 years? 14, because 2023. Not quite 14, 13 years. I don't know. Someone do the math for me on that one, what that means. It was started late in 2008. Pretty much a lot of people give 2009 as its, I think it was beginning of 2008. We're on a tangent here, but 2009 is the date a lot of people give it, even though it technically started late in 08. So that puts it at 14. I'm going to say 14. I'm going to say 14. We're sticking with it. All right, 14 years. That was a lot of stuff we didn't need to talk about. But anyway, so we came down here and bounced just perfectly at this yellow line. I talked about the significance of this being the peak we had back in November of 2022. And let's just kind of stay here. You guys have seen this for a second, but this kind of did just perfectly what I was discussing it might do when you go back and look at previous bear markets. And that's this right here, back in here. This is the 2018 bear market. We had that last peak in November of 18, had our big drop down, set our bottom, broke through it, came back up, and then a couple of days later, when it came back down to touch that same level, we ended up rallying, came back down and touched it again later in the year. So again, that's why we might not be done setting some lows here. It just might take a while. We might move sideways and set some new highs before we come back down to these levels. So we did it in the last bear market. Don't pay attention to that right there. That is the pandemic. Does not count. We also did it over here back in the previous bear market before that. Go off auto for me, please. There we go. Back in 2015, we started. This was a little different. We had our high right before the big dip, and then we kept using it as resistance. But when we finally did break through, we came back down again just a couple days and weeks later, retested that former resistance level as support, and then we made our case to the upside. So flashback to what we're looking at now. Come on now. Auto, please, for me. There we go. Didn't get all the way to it. Flashback to where we are right now. Sure enough, this former resistance level right here in November, we just came back down after finally breaking through it, wrestling with it for a second, broke through, came back down to user support, and now we're testing new 6-month highs. Yes, we have not been at the price level we are currently at. Last time we touched 24,900. We had not been anywhere near that since back in August of 2022. So in the last 6 months, we are looking at highs. The good thing is, or the question we're looking at, can we finally break through that 25 and start the official higher highs and higher lows trends? I like where we're going with higher lows, and some people are going to say, Tim, we're setting higher highs. We beat out our November rally. That's fair. I love it. I would rather us, though, it seems like of the moves, this is still one move. This is a falling wedge pattern. This high we set back in August, it seems like this is just more of a lower high of one kind of current trend move, more so than a different thing altogether. What I'm talking about when you kind of zoom out here and you're looking at the bear market, we have our all-time high. We have this high we set back in April when we got up to 48,000. I would even count this one right here. We got up to 32 again. It was short-lived, not a very long trend, but you can kind of see these stick together. This is like a whole grouping. This is a whole grouping, and this is a longer one, but I still think this is one grouping. So beating out that 25,200 would be major for the price of Bitcoin to start that trend of setting higher highs. And again, is it a blast off to new all-time highs by tomorrow? No, that's not happening. But it's a start to the bull run that we have been waiting for what seems like forever now, but it's only been like a year and a half. So that's what we're looking at with Bitcoin right now. I'm going to take a quick look. I'm not going to necessarily do too much technical analysis on them later. I might. I don't know. But let's take a look at Ethereum. I told you guys I was close. I got Bitcoin right. I did say, hey, guys, buy some Bitcoin at 21.5. Even if we drop lower, that's still a good buy spot. Ended up being just right. And then we go down to Ethereum. I missed it by this much. This is why when you choose your levels, You don't always necessarily buy at the very bottom of what you're expecting. You go a little above it. I talked to you guys about these levels down here at 14.5 down to 14.20. That's, I said, when we're looking for a pullback and you guys are looking at everything that touched, a lot of support and resistance all along this level, we ended up getting just shy of it. We came down to 14.62, which means I missed the Ethereum window when I put this little zone right here. I missed it by $12. $12 I missed that little window by.
That's wild.
But it's the thought that counts, you know. In this case, either way, I think this is still really good. Ethereum's breaking back up. It has not officially cleared this wick that we had here just a couple of weeks ago, so it is not sitting at a 6-month all-time high, but I do think it's only a matter of time. Watch for us to get back up again towards these levels that we did have back here in August, towards 2000. There's going to be a little bit of resistance sitting right here around 18, the higher 1800s, right below 1900, but watch for Ethereum to continue to make a breakout that way. On Cardano, same thing. And again, it's not going to be 12 cents, obviously, because Cardano not even worth $1 just yet, or $12, I mean, for Ethereum. But again, I called for levels down here at 34, and I said 34, what is this? I said 05 down to about 33.07. We got down to 34.51. So I missed Cardano by half a cent. Again, these are the reasons why when you're looking for buy spots, you don't necessarily look at a level that you're saying, I think we're coming down to here, and I'm going to set my buy right there. You can do that. That's completely fine. But there's lots of times. This is not the first time in my history of doing technical analysis and looking for good opportunities to get in or get out of places that I've set a level, and I've said it makes a lot of sense on the chart for this level to be hit, and then it ends up missing by a fraction. That's exactly what we had happen here with Cardano and Ethereum. Cardano's making a little bit of a pullback that we're not necessarily seeing on Cardano or on Ethereum and Bitcoin just yet. It is down 4%, almost 5% on the day. Let's take a quick look while we're there. I'm not necessarily looking at this and saying it's overextended. Here on the daily chart, our MACD is starting to curl back to the upside. This is the Luxago oscillator. We're sitting back in the middle, not necessarily overbought or oversold. We started like a new trend lines kind of looking thing here going with the RSI. What I'm talking about there is we had been in this downward trend, and I talked about this last week, how just like price, RSI can go into trends. Well, we broke that, and yes, we're back below it right now, but this is a whole new trend that Cardano is under right now, so I'm not necessarily too worried about that. If anyone's looking here and saying, oh, Tim, is that bearish RSI divergence? I'm not going to call that bearish RSI divergence just yet. I think we're waiting for a future one because this was a whole different trend of its own. We had all this bearish divergence leading up to this point. This is kind of a place that you kind of clear this chart. You say, all right, when we're looking for divergences from here on out, we're looking at new points. So we set our first one right here. Let's see how the rest of the day closes here. But we set our first point as Cardano continues to rally to the upside over the next couple of days and weeks, because we do have a while again before we get news that could really suppress the crypto prices, and that's going to be the next Fed meeting, the next FOMC. How do they respond to these recent CPI numbers? Watch to see if we set up some bearish divergence from this point on. I'm not necessarily seeing it. Let's go back over to Bitcoin here. Not necessarily seeing it happen. Same thing that happened over here. We're setting this new high. You could make the argument, Tim, is that bearish divergence? Same reason as Cardano. Nope. I think we kind of had a little bit of a reset mode. We had our bearish divergence. We came back down. We found a little bottom, and now a new trend is forming back to the upside. Kind of seeing the same exact things here on the daily chart. MACD's curling to the upside. The Luxago oscillator is saying, hey, you know, nothing overbought, nothing oversold. We're good to go. Our RSI sitting right below the 70, but could easily climb back up into there. We haven't necessarily even started a peak yet on Bitcoin, so I don't even have a mark yet to start to decide, hey, are we going to be setting up bearish divergence anytime soon? This is going to be really good. Last thing I want to show you on traditional TA here for Bitcoin is going to be with that fixed range volume profile. You guys have been watching the show for a while. We've been talking about this. I believe other technical analysts have discussed this in kind of length as well. But not only would we set a new higher high if we get here above 25,200, but look at what happens to the volume if we clear that level. The reason I have this red zone above us going a little higher than the peak, even though that's where the volume starts to kind of stops, I do want to keep an eye on where we had lots of support back here in May during that big crash and then bounced up a lot. You always want to keep your eyes on levels like that. So that's why my zone goes all the way up towards 25,400, even though 25,241 would give us a new high. If we clear that, there's just nothing standing between us and getting all the way up towards 27,600 and more realistically up here towards 28,700. And when we're moving over here to chart prime here in just a second, you're going to see some more confirmation kind of coming in those levels. But right now, that's what I'm looking at right here, guys. We still got a lot of room to the upside, and this new run, this new fresh run, kind of resetting the charts, resetting where our levels are, not really having to worry about this bearish RSI divergence as we speak. It could be really good. Let's look at one more thing, actually, before I go to chart prime. I keep saying that. That's a habit of mine. I always say one more, but it is good stuff. I've been talking about this out in the log chart for a while now, this falling wedge pattern that Bitcoin has been in. It was a big deal here a couple weeks ago, back in January, when we broke through it and turned this resistance, it got it below us. What we just did with this recent fall is we just turned it into support. So we curled back down. This happens a lot. We came back down to this red line where it used to be resistance, where we had several touches here, but then we turned it into support. This is a massive bullish news for Bitcoin. Another reason why, again, you can't really ever say anything with too much certainty, but I do believe the next couple of weeks are to the upside for Bitcoin, and this is just one more of those reasons why. Now, let's go ahead and switch, and let's take a look at what's happening on chart prime, because it does tell a little bit of a different story. There is still some signs that you should be slightly hesitant, and one of them is this signal that I absolutely love here with our premium, equilibrium, and discount levels. You can't necessarily trade on these ones just alone, but this is something to keep an eye on. We do need to reset this. We've been hitting our heads on it. We hit our heads back here just a couple weeks ago. We're back up here. Can we break through the premium level? We did not come back down to equilibrium. We did not come back down to the dynamic reactor. So we do need to touch that eventually. Are we going to see the price skyrocket and then this dynamic reactor skyrocket, and then we'll kind of move sideways to meet it? Or is there a big dip coming? Either way, I do think somewhere down in the future, next couple of months, we are going to have a touch at least of this dynamic reactor, similar like during bear markets. We had a touch back here in March of 2022, got away from it, kept making our way over to it, but the farther we got away from it, we kept getting more, we kept getting almost like a rubber band effect of more of a reason to expand to the upside. And so finally, after touching it once, we broke through it with ease. And now the question is, as we start to turn more bullish, when are we coming back down to touch that once again? The cool thing I am seeing right here, though, we did get a reset here. We've in the daily chart, we've had a reset. We are not necessarily overextended till we get all the way up here towards 35, but even that purple line up there, 35,000, if we can break through that, we're going to start on the daily chart what we've already accomplished on the 4-hourly chart of a more uptick and resetting of these trend lines to the upside. And guess what we have forming as well? Another capitulation event. Another example, capitulation is the wrong term because that is a different expression all to itself. This is a compression zone with our reversal zones that are still coming together. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of hesitate here for just a little bit, but as our bands continue to come together, but a breakout comes. Look at every single time. Well, that was depressing. That didn't really do anything. Well, actually, it kind of did. It kind of moved sideways. Got a breakout right here from this little contraction. Right here we contracted, had a little bit of a breakout. This one was one kind of disappointing. Didn't really get a big breakout the way we thought. But traditionally, when you see these reversal zones pinch like this, big breakouts are coming and they have massive moves. So the fact that we have another one coming here on the chart prime indicator is really, really good. Keep an eye on our oscillators for chart prime as well. Already talked about the oscillator for RSI, but look here, where at that bottom, we had a great call on the daily chart from Chart Prime where it flashed oversold. Yes, we continue to move sideways for the next couple of days, but we really didn't get any lower than what we had this flash right here on the oversold. This is a great indicator. You never make the trades just like anything else. You don't make a trade based off of one thing alone, but here's what I will say about Chart Prime. As far as the indicators that I've used, when you buy indicators and you get these signals that flash these buys or overbought or oversold or this black diamond or blood diamond, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to go ahead and just say here, Chart Prime's flashes on their oscillators, when they say overbought, oversold, are they perfect? No, there's no such indicator out there that is perfect. But are they darn stinking close? Absolutely. Look at these levels. This is one here, right, that missed, but look at this oversold right here. Yes, we moved sideways, but that was pretty much the bottom. Overbought, we dipped to the downside. Once again over here, oversold, we continue to rally. So great stuff happening over here on Chart Prime. Really, really love it. Let's go down the 4-hourly chart real quickly, and I'm going to then kind of end our TA here for today. It's good to be back, but I got to get back in the flow for a couple of days before I get you guys a lot more. We got our little orange box up here, and we're really high on this oscillator, but we have not flashed overbought just yet. So let's keep an eye on that one. What I was talking about here just a second ago over on the daily chart with these ranges, these predictive ranges, is for the first time in over a year, we started setting higher or ranges. Let me take down the oscillators. You don't need those. And what I mean by that is look at these levels. Let's kind of zoom out here. Look at these levels. These purple, red, orange, or gold, blue lines. These ranges are getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And finally, here back in January, we flipped and we started to set higher. And we're setting them higher and higher as we go. Daily chart has not yet done that, but we are getting close. So watch here. I got to give it a second to load. This is going to be really important on this purple line that we can reset the trend. Now, we got a ways to go. But if we can get back here above 35,000, we can start to flip this trend. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, would probably be the last nail in the coffin for me. And I know I've said this a lot. I'm really big on 25,000, getting back above 25,200. That's going to be big. But when we break and we set a new trend, when this purple line gets broken and we set a new, what is this called? A new predictive range higher than what we're currently operating in, that to me will be the last thing I need to say with 100% certainty. Guys, the bottom is absolutely freaking in, and we are starting a new bull market. We have changed our trend of moving to the downside. We're now moving back to the upside. So keep your eyes on this. We got some big news coming with Chart Prime. We definitely are going to be having availability for you guys to get that in our link below. We don't have it just yet. We have a big meeting tomorrow, so be thinking about us. But Chart Prime is a phenomenal tool. If you guys already have it, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you do not have it, great Discord, great people. This is the one that when you guys see Army Piper doing TA, he's always using this TA. And it is a phenomenal tool, and I'm very excited about the future of what it has to offer the entire crypto space. With that said, well, that was a lot. And that was me kind of just doing this morning. I always hate when I've been gone for a little bit and I try to jump back on the charts. Those of you who do technical analysis, you know, you miss a couple of days, you can miss some really impactful stuff. So T-Shrimp, is there anything that while I was gone, you and Caleb or you and Army Piper that you guys saw that I'm completely missing on and you want to remind the audience of?
I'd say you did a pretty comprehensive job. Yeah, really good.
I get a thumb up from T-Shrimp. I always love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's engage here. We got like 3 minutes before the market opens. Let's engage with chat here a little bit. Let's see if there's any questions they have, any thoughts that they have. Did you see anything interesting in the chat while I was talking there, T-Shrimp?
Ryan McCarran asked a good question. If you get the indicators, I'm assuming he means Chart Prime, do you also need to upgrade TradingView?
No. So that's actually really cool. And I'm going to give a shout out to almost all of them out there. So I'm thinking Chart Prime, I'm thinking Luxog, I'm thinking Market Cipher, all the paid indicators that I know of. Mm-hmm. They do not require a paid version of TradingView. Mm-hmm. Now, it definitely helps because when the free version, I think you only get to open 4. So it gets frustrating to constantly have to delete things and pick them up. I like having, I think I have Pro Plus, so I have like 10. I can open 10 at a time to get that all the time. But no, to answer your question, if you buy any of those, you do not have to pay for a TradingView account. I recommend it, but you don't have to.
Yeah. Good.
Let's see. What else is happening here? Shelly Renee of the Texley family says, good morning, y'all. From good old Bendover, Oregon. Wow. I would love to go to Oregon. Is there good snowboarding out in Oregon?
Yeah, I think so.
I know there's really good, like I've been to Colorado, but I'd love to go to like Montana. I've heard some really good stuff in Montana.
I've been to Silver Falls in Oregon. Silver Falls was magical. Very, very cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
Nice. Maybe we'll have to make.
They've got the Dr. Seuss trees out there in Oregon.
Yeah, Mr. Bitcoin.
You know.
Mr. Bitcoin says, "How about a link to that tool?" We're so close. There's some details going on there, and I don't want to spoil them because they're not set in stone just yet. Mm-hmm. But I want to leave it this. I am extremely excited about Chart Prime. And even if you guys go ahead and purchase it today from somebody else, like if you were to go over to their channel itself, like go follow Chart Prime, the YouTube channel. That's where, if you guys loved having Army Piper on, you love his TA, he's over there daily. They definitely have a link for you over there. I'm not going to be upset with you because I know how valuable that tool is. But if you want to wait out and get our link, it's going to be coming extremely soon. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. 1 more minute. Let's engage with chat. Yeah, they said, Shelly Renee said, great snow. We have Mount Bachelor. All right, we're gonna have to make a trip out to Oregon. We'll go out like T-Shrimp here like next winter or something. This is not set in stone, so if we don't do this, don't hold it against us. But let's go out to Cali. We got lots of people out in Cali. We'll do a fan meetup. We'll make our way up to Oregon. We'll go snowboarding in Oregon. Have a fan snowboarding and skiing day. Mm-hmm. It'll be good. It'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Last thing I'll say here, if you guys want to talk more with T. Shroom and I, by the way, today's our AMA, our 4th AMA now.
Mm-hmm.
For all of our gold and diamond members. If you guys want to talk more with us, we have a Discord and we have some behind the scenes stuff. There's 2 different options. We have a free version. If you guys go to the link below, there's a free Discord. You guys can ask any questions you want. That the community as a whole is phenomenal. So like even if you don't get word back from me or T. Shroom, there are some phenomenal people in our Discord right now, link down below. But there's also a Patreon with a lot of access to us. It has some paid channels over there in the Discord. It also has behind-the-scenes stuff like today's AMA, like behind the scenes of us planning the show and stuff from time to time. And I think a lot more stuff is coming out there as well. Make sure you guys go to the link down below. Check that out if you want to spend more time with us. That's one of the things that I really want to pride Investing Bros on is I want to be the most well-knit community and most interactive community, like so you guys can spend a lot of time with us.
Mm-hmm.
I love getting to be over there, answer questions, do TA, joke around, talk about investing, talk about trading strategies. It's all good. Make sure you don't miss out. Join that Discord below. Yeah. But T-Shroom, with that said, it is now 9:30, so we can go ahead and take a look at the market open and see what is happening.
Yeah, we can. Before we do that, though, there was some breaking news that was brought to my attention actually yesterday. This is not good news, unfortunately, but check this out, guys. So a train has been derailed in Ohio. I'm sure that's
actually a couple days old.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It's breaking for us. We haven't talked about it. Well, it still says breaking on NBC. So anyway, yeah. So this, these are some of the scenes, and the actual title of this article is Ohio Train Derailment Prompts Bipartisan Calls for Senate Investigation. I'm sure you'll have access to this story a lot of other places. Tim and I really specialize in crypto and investing information, but you guys can go read up on this for yourself, but we'd be remiss if we didn't cover this at all, because it's really, really big news.
It's been all over Twitter here for last week. Mm-hmm. There are people. So, I mean, I don't want to spread any disinformation because I don't know. Like, I've not seen evidence. I've heard, but like, there's reports of like animals being, dead for no reason, hundreds of miles away. People have compared it. Is this potentially a United States Chernobyl incident? And speaking of, there's a lot of fishy things here. I'm not gonna go too much in the weeds here with conspiracy theories. Others will do it. But we had this just happen. This train derailed. Over in Arizona, a truck derailed, and there was a notice that everyone within, I can't remember the mile radius, but was instructed to go in their houses, close the doors, turn off the ACs, turn off the heaters, do not let any outside air come in. Mm-hmm. There was something else. There was another event somewhere else in the U.S. Like this last week, like there's been 3 like toxic accidents that have happened. And it's just one of those things of like, until you have evidence to know that it for sure was on purpose.
What's crazy?
You can't say anything too much, but it's like, what are the chances in 1 week, 3 different events causing people to close it?
We'll get off of this in just a second, but when Amanda told me this, the first thing that came to my mind was actually this movie that Amanda and I watched on Netflix the other day, because and this article clearly had the exact same thought that I did. It says Ohio train derailment predicted by 2022 Netflix movie. I gotta be honest with you guys. The movie sounds exactly like what's going on in Ohio and maybe
What's
in Arizona.
What's the movie called?
It's called let's see. I think White Noise was the name of it.
Wow.
But I gotta be honest with you guys. I really enjoyed the movie. I never anticipated that it would come to fruition, but yeah, you can just search it now. I think it's called White Noise. Anyway, let's get to our market open, guys. It's a wild world, but energy is continuing to be predictable as energy prices continue to move to the upside this morning. Natural gas up 1.25% and oil prices up, Brent crude up 0.4% there. So our indexes are opening up lower and markedly so, with the NASDAQ leading the losses there for the NASDAQ, for our stock exchanges here. Our stock indexes, and then the S&P trailing not far behind the NASDAQ, and the Dow lagging in its selling rate there. So we'll circle back on those and see what's going on. But you're seeing a decent amount of green on the screen. It's mixed. It's not mixed. It is mixed, but it's mostly red in the altcoins. However, Ethereum and Bitcoin are still clinging to that green status there, and so is Matic. We'll keep moving on here. Metal's also getting a little morning sell-off here. Guys, we're gonna take a look here at the PPI story, which is more than likely why you're seeing a sell-off here. But I'm thinking this is probably a dip you want to buy more than likely. Let's take a look here. Mega cap tech stocks selling off across the board with, let's see, Meta leading the way lower there, down 2.5, almost 2.6% there. And also Apple being the least sold off this morning, down only 0.9%. But seeing numbers on the wrong side of the decimal point there in red for mega cap tech. And that's why, the NASDAQ was selling off so heavy. It looks like bonds are also selling off as the yields are coming up this morning across the board. You see yields green, the Dixie also green, interestingly enough, as we get continuation of the observation that Army Piper made yesterday so astutely on the channel, which is that the Dixie and Bitcoin are moving up at the same time, which is really, really interesting. Yeah. You don't see that very often, except for at the beginning and during bull markets for Bitcoin. So very interesting.
I didn't know that. That's what he went back and did, like the historical analysis.
He just noticed it off the cuff. He just noticed it today or yesterday, and then it's a really good observation. So, but let's keep moving here. Cannabis printing red this morning across my watch list, and then also mid cap tech getting sold off pretty heavy as well, with Coinbase down almost 7%. And Snowflake down almost 4%. So not good looks there from NASDAQ-centric companies, and oil producers also mixed. So if you were thinking you were going to find protection in ExxonMobil or Schollenberger, you were wrong this morning, at least in the first 6 minutes of the New York session. Well, that is actually, I think, one of the fastest I've gotten through the market open. Let's circle back over to the indexes. I doubt that they're too much change because we, again, just did that pretty quickly. But let's go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ, because I was reading an article this morning that's saying, that there's still a pretty strong correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ. And it is. I mean, take a look at this, guys. Look right here. I mean, you can see its proximity to the line of support that it broke, of resistance that it broke through. Flip support. This is Atom, not Bitcoin. But looking at Bitcoin, it's very, very similar here, guys. So Bitcoin obviously, moving quite a bit more, but just off the rip, if the NASDAQ isn't something you're tracking, it may be something you want to track, because as you can see here, looking very, very similar. According to Bitcoin, the NASDAQ should have more room to run. Unless the NASDAQ is more here in the cycle, then it needs to have a correction and pop back up. In which case you could read it that way and potentially trade accordingly. Not financial advice. So interesting open to the day. Let's go ahead and jump right into our stories. But before I do, let's make sure I don't publish all of my emails right here on stream. And we're going to start off, guys, with wholesale prices rose 0.7 in January as we got that PPI print this morning. I'll go ahead and show you guys that on the economic calendar that I like to tune into. And that was yesterday. Let's go to today. So the PPI printed 0.7, forecasted was 0.4, and it was a revised 0.2. So this is a miss. This is negative, but this is kind of by the same margin, a similar margin of miss as we got from the CPI. So let's dig into a couple of details here, guys. Not going to spend too much time on this because it's a pretty it's a slight bearish story. The producer price index, a measure of raw goods fetch on the open market, rose 0.7% for the month, the biggest increase since June. Economists surveyed by the Dow Jones had been looking for an increase of 0.4 after a decline of 0.2 in December. So economists are attributing the January inflation increase primarily to some seasonal factors, as well as payback from previous months that showed more muted price increases. And unseasonably warm winters may have helped play a part as well, while fuel prices, which are volatile, also jumped during the month. So some interesting analysis there from CNBC on that PPI print. Well, moving into crypto, barely crypto, but kind of crypto here. Hong Kong has successfully offered an inaugural $100 million tokenized green bond. Guys, this isn't going to affect you, but this is a pretty big moment because this is a first of its kind. The first green bond to be issued by a government globally, the announcement by Hong Kong Monetary Authority said. Processes of the processes of the bond life cycle, including coupon payment, settlement of secondary trading, and maturity redemption, will also be digitalized and performed on a private blockchain network, the government said. Interesting use of the word private there. I wonder how private it actually is by the CCP's standards. The 365-day bond at 4.05% yield, not bad, was offered in a collaboration with the Bank of China, Hong Kong branch, and then another bank, HSBC, with Goldman Sachs as a platform provider. Wow, that is crazy. That is insane. Okay, that's funny. That Goldman Sachs is the platform provider for the first green bond that is being issued by China. Very interesting development there. Kind of seeing where Goldman Sachs's priorities are. I highly doubt they were cornered into doing this. More than likely, they led the way. The bond is not for distribution in the U.S., Canada, Japan, or any other prohibited jurisdiction. So they're trying to keep it their domestic circulation of those bonds. Now back over to the U.S. Tim, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, that's all. I'm just kind of still soaking the
It's
information
bizarre.
in. Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's strange.
Yeah.
I don't think many people were anticipating that headline, but there you go. You got it. Green bonds are pretty controversial. You know, there's a lot of pushback from a lot of conservative politicians and conservative folks. I think that the green bond is definitely not in favor with conservatives. Well, speaking of conservatives, we're going to jump over to Wyoming, which is one of the most conservative states in these United States. And they've got a headline going, Wyoming lawmakers passed bill prohibiting forced disclosure of private crypto keys. The U.S. state's House of Representatives approved the rules, which won't apply in cases where there are no alternative ways to access the requisite information. There's a nice little picturesque view of Wyoming there, but that's a good move overall for Wyoming to try and provide more limitation of the government to be able to get a hold of your keys.
It's a weird law though, and kind of scary that as good as this is for Wyoming, it's one of those things like, wait a minute, is there something coming that other states are going to start forcing you to disclose your private keys? So it's like a two-edged sword on this one. It's like good for Wyoming. What does this mean for everybody else? Like I'm sure there's certain states like Texas isn't going to do it. I even think Florida. I think Florida's overall been pretty friendly towards crypto, but some of these others, New York, California. I guess California's been somewhat more lenient, but still, like some of these other more bluer states.
Well, I guess my question would be like, well, what about in the cases where it's a legitimate crime ring, you know, and you can't get access to the keys? I mean, it's not that you need access to the keys, but if you can, I wonder how it's going to relate to federal warrants.
But here's the equivalency, and I know some people are going to be like, oh, it's just like, you know, it's to help keep security. So should the government have access to your safe in your private home where you keep your cash for the sake of making sure no illegal activities are being done with cash?
No.
That's the same. Well, a private key, though, is the exact same thing as having a safe with your cash at home rather than storing in a bank. The whole point of crypto is being your own bank, being decentralized, being like, hey, this is my currency. So if a government's going to come in and start forcing you to disclose your private keys, that's the same thing as saying the government's going to come in and demand it has the codes to your safes so that it can check on them anytime it wants to make sure there's no illegal activity. It's the exact same thing. I know people, because they don't understand blockchain technology, don't see it that way just yet. But those of us who are in crypto, that is the same thing. That's like the government having the codes to all of your safes and your safety deposit box at the bank. It's just, it's if there are states that end up saying that that's a legal thing, I hope there's some massive backlash against that of privacy. So
it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how it would play out in a federal case versus a state case. If there was fraud just going on in Wyoming, yes, you'd have very sufficient protections to where the Wyoming government would not be able to get your keys. But if it was a federal probe, if you were doing dirty activity just across the border of Montana, the federal probe would probably override the state protection.
This is the other dumb thing, though, with blockchain technology. You don't have to be in my private keys to know that certain money went into my wallet. That it is open source. Like it's transparent. Like you can't have my money, but you can see how much money I have. You can see when I took money, when I gave money. So if this point is to crack down on illegal activity, crypto is perfect for cracking down on illegal activity. What it's not good for is government confiscation of money. But you don't need to confiscate money to end crime. You need to see, oh, look, this person did the crime. I can track the currency into their private wallet, arrest them. Now, I'm not going to get that money. That money might be gone for forever. And so I think that's the bigger problem. And it's starting to expose how much of the United States judicial system, which, by the way, is probably the best in the world still. I don't know, but it's still good. But how many times do people actually just explore a case for the sake of getting money?
Yeah.
How often does our judicial system do that?
Very
and
often.
This is starting to crack into that. Like, hey, are we actually about justice, or are you only going after this case because you know there's some monetary value in it, and because it's crypto, you can't get access to it, and that makes you upset?
Yeah.
It's really exposing light on what our judicial system looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of our judicial system, let's go ahead and hear a new and exciting message that is designed to instill peace and a feeling of comfort from Gary Gensler. Let's go ahead and take a look and a listen to that right now.
What is a qualified custodian, and what does it have to do with the securities laws?
It's pretty bad.
A qualified custodian. No, not groundskeeper Willie from The Simpsons. I'm talking about a different kind of custodian, one that safeguards your assets when you work with an investment advisor. Investment advisors advise investors or funds with literally tens of trillions of dollars of assets under management. They advise mutual funds, hedge funds, pension and retirement funds, endowments, or those robo-advisor apps that you might use. Thus, it's pretty important that when you entrust your assets to an advisor, they don't inappropriately use, lose, or abuse your assets. That's why we at the SEC have a custody rule. The rule requires that any advisor who can access your funds must use a qualified custodian to protect your funds. The thing is, we haven't updated our custody rule since 2009, just after the financial crisis and major frauds like what happened with Bernie Madoff. The next year, though, in 2010, given these events, Congress gave the SEC greater authority and scope to expand our custody rule to better protect your assets placed with an advisor. Not just your funds or securities, but all of your assets. And using these authorities, earlier today, we put out a new proposal to do what Congress asked and to account for the lessons in new technology from the last 13 years. Under the proposal, a qualified custodian would be subject to independent audits, certain documentation requirements, and yes, to segregate your assets into an account with your name on it. These updated rules would better help protect your and groundskeeper Willie's assets with advisors. The rules apply to crypto assets with advisors as well. Thus, that advisor would be required to keep your crypto with a qualified custodian, not on any crypto trading platform based on how they currently operate, but with a qualified custodian. Crypto companies may claim they can take proper custody of your assets, but when these companies fail, something that we've seen time and again, investors' assets often have disappeared or become the property of the failed company. And you as an investor end up stuck in line at the bankruptcy court. So beware, even if a crypto company claims that they custody your assets, it's not the same as qualified custody. Through our proposed rule, investors would get the time-tested protections and yes, qualified custodians they deserve. So please weigh in on our proposal.
Wow. What a magical message. Well, there was a pretty swift reaction from Hester Pierce, who actually works over at the SEC, and she kind of broke down, gave her reaction. But Tim, did you have a reaction to this before we get into Hester?
I'm going to start off by saying Gary's not even good at reading a teleprompter. The amount of pauses Like
was bad.
who watched that and said, "Yep, good to go." Like at least edit the awkward pauses where he's waiting for the next word.
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
it
was cringy. It was bad.
No, a couple of things that I will say here. I will go ahead and go on a limb here. I'm watching chat. Got a bunch of those like puke emojis going on. To a person who's not necessarily in the weeds of what crypto is and what crypto's doing, I'm gonna actually go in and say that a lot of people might be tempted to agree with Gary's take here. And we just watched. I mean, in that video, it showed what happened with Celsius. It showed things with FTX. These are major examples of where we thought that we could trust these exchanges to hold our money, and they failed us. And what he's ultimately doing is saying, hey, we don't want that to ever happen again. We want to make sure that your money is held in the proper locations with trusted custodians. And it's all this stuff. Like, it sounds really good on paper. Couple problems here. First of all, this is like the equivalency of them saying, no, you don't know what to do with your money. We want to protect you. We're going to take your money from you to hold it for you. It'll be in your name, but we're gonna control how your money goes. That's the first problem with it. The second one is, in case anyone wonders, what does this actually look like? So if you were to try to use exchanges, if you were to try to hold your money there, it's gonna have to go through another party. It's gonna force you to pay for it. So exchange fees are gonna go up. It's going to become more expensive. You're not going to be able to get the same profits you did before. Some people don't like the current exchange fees. Like if you're using Coinbase or you're using, I know Binance is a little bit better. Some others, I know like, what's that one that people buy XRP on in the United States?
Uphold.
People complain about those fees. If you don't like those fees now, just wait until Gary Gensler and the SEC tries to enact what he just talked about and make sure that these exchanges are backed by trusted custodians. Now there's more people asking for some money, so those exchange fees go up. As a whole, the only good thing that could come out of this, if it were to pass, would be the like that withdrawal and that push towards decentralized exchanges, and then obviously private keys, cold wallets, and people just holding their own money rather than continue to hold it on public exchanges. It's not over just yet, and I know this article goes into details on that. One of the things I see, I'm going to tease it. She talks about here. What's her name?
Hester Pierce.
She talks about the absolute like idiocy of how fast this is happening. Pretty much, even though it might still take a year, Gary and the SEC, they're not giving it enough time for people to actually fully understand what happens. When have we seen that happen before? Pretty much any bill that ever goes through Congress, it comes out and it only wants to accomplish 3 things, and yet it's like 156 pages, and they want to pass it within like 24 hours. And the whole purpose is, let's just fill this thing with a bunch of nonsense so no one really understands what they're voting on. And there's a bunch of legal loopholes in here, and then we're just going to pass this, and no one has the right to actually know what's happening. It's the same thing. They're going to do this whole process, be extremely vague, just like that video said. Like we talked about in the beginning, in the intro, those writers put a lot of time into writing jokes. They tried to edit, the editor is not very good, but you can tell they did a lot of, they really tried to make that editing process good, and they spent almost no time being clear with what's actually being proposed. But they gave you, again, if you're not really in crypto every single day and you don't understand it that much, from the outside looking in, you might look at that and say, like, I think that makes sense. We need to have exchanges that we can trust. We need to have trusted custodians. Let's pass this. Let's pass this. And they're not going to explain to you any of the ramifications, which is really good that we have someone like Hester Pierce, a.k.a. what people call her Crypto Mom. Helping tip us off on what old Gary and the rest of the SEC are doing. But we can go deeper on the article, T-shirt. If there's anything I missed there, that was my initial take upon hearing that video and kind of going through it this morning.
Yeah, no, that was good. I saw a lot of Mr. Burns comments in the chat as well. That's a good take. But yeah, so Hester Pierce says SEC plan involves a substantial departure from the status quo. We're going to dive into some of the details here. As Tim mentioned, Pierce, who may affectionately be called Crypto Mom, was skeptical of the timing of the SEC's proposal, its workability, and the agency's jurisdiction over cryptocurrency in general. So there's the video. You can go check it out for yourself. But this rule will require a lot of work, and a year seems too short to accomplish all of it, Pierce said. So the timing again, is inappropriate. The commissioner acknowledges that an agreement between the custodian and the advisor would be a substantial departure from the current industry practice. So a big and sweeping change that isn't necessarily the consensus of the regulatory community. And then finally, in what is becoming something of a habit, the commission is once more proposing to dictate contract provisions involving entities the commission does not regulate, Pierce said. So Gary Gensler kind of being exposed here for acting outside of his lane. And then today, the SEC proposed changes to the investment advisor custody rule that seems designed to prohibit U.S. firms from investing in U.S. crypto companies, tweeted Jake Chervinsky, chief policy officer at the Blockchain Association. This proposal would flagrantly violate the SEC's mission by making investors less safe and by discouraging capital formation. So this also from the Blockchain Association. It's always good to get their take because they are seen as kind of the voice of the crypto from a legal the voice of crypto from a legal standpoint. They're kind of the one of the associations that are looking out for crypto's best interest and are actually armed with the personnel to do so. So obviously, kind of what's going to happen here. Well, if Gary is able to get this type of rules passed, whoever replaces him, unless they're even more crypto unfriendly, unless they're more crypto aggressive, they're just going to repeal it. They're just going to repeal it and maybe keep some of the little line items that are actually working. But that's the way the government works. That's the way the regulation works. We see that in the executive branch, up in the big, sexy, Acropolis that's easy and fun to watch. I see Caleb Franz in the chat. What's up, Caleb? But ultimately, obviously, this is bad. That these rules that Gary Gensler is proposing, doesn't give enough time for operators to comply. If you know anything about compliance, maybe you worked in the compliance office, timing is huge. Timing is everything. You got to be able to get your ducks in a row and actually make something happen. And Hester doesn't think that a year is long enough. And then it's just, they don't even have the jurisdiction necessarily. It's not clear that the SEC has the jurisdiction to make these and much less implement these rules. So overall, guys, I mean, this is just Gary being Gary. He's continuing what Army and I were talking about yesterday. He's continuing this battle. They came out very strong against Paxos Exchange and BUSD, and they're trying to continue this battle and keep this battleground relevant. When in reality, there is a much bigger war that they're losing, and that is that crypto is better money. Bitcoin is Ethereum are better stores of value and better means of exchange, and that's just the long and short of it, guys. And to augment the custodian and client contractual agreements here is not something that Gary Gensler should be doing, and it looks legally like he probably won't be able to do it. What I'm thinking is that this and a couple other major issues like are crypto securities and which ones are and which ones aren't. I think these type of issues are going to eventually just have to make it to the Supreme Court or some kind of Supreme Court equivalent for this type of thing, and it's not going to be the SEC. I think what I've noticed, what I've observed is that these agencies of Congress essentially they enact these rules. And if the rules are overbearing, or if they're unpopular, or if major associations disagree with them, they'll sue. They just sue to enact, to make the rule go away, and they don't go away immediately, but they go up to that issue goes up to the Supreme Court, or again the equivalent agency or judicial body that's equipped and empowered to make that decision, and then it goes one way or the other, and so. That's going to be one to watch. I haven't heard too many people talking about these issues being ascended to the Supreme Court, but I imagine that is the ultimate end zone for a lot of these things. And while Gary can come and tweet and make these fun little Twitter videos that are supposed to make everybody agree with him, even if he was to implement these rules and pass them through, he's still not. It's not like it's going to be written in stone in the American Constitution for the end of time. No, it's going to take a lot more. And ultimately, this volley of regulation being hurled at the crypto industry is temporary, and it's short-lived, and it may have some effect. It looks like it's going to have a lot of effect on BUSD. But at the end of the day, the crypto industry is going to take the punches, right? Assess what resources were not damaged, and then come back with its own punches of its own, and whatever that might be. So I'm really not discouraged by this. Obviously it's pretty bearish in the sense that there's continuation in this regulatory wave, but ultimately I'm not discouraged because I'm looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think another thing would be, even though there's still some room that has to happen. I think the article even talks about this could take a year to 18 months, which seems like a long time. It's actually a short time. We need to make sure as enthusiasts of crypto, and it's kind of a reflection of why are you even in crypto? Are you just here to make money? Because guess what? There will be opportunities. There's been opportunities in the past, and there will be opportunities in the future to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. There always will be. That as long as we have capitalism, as long as we have the systems that we have in place currently, that's going to happen. The real question is, were you in crypto because of the decentralized nature of crypto? Were you here because you were tired of centralized banks claiming to have authority to protect you, but in reality, they're just screwing you over? This ultimately would be taking away the decentralized aspects of cryptocurrency when it comes to banking yourself. And it's not solving the problem. And I know here in the United States, it's a little harder to see those problems, but go ask people over in the continent of Africa. Go ask people in certain places in Asia. Go ask people over in Eastern Europe even. If you could have access to be your own bank. I saw a video this morning. What country? I can't remember the country. So if someone knows it, they were literally people setting fire to banks.
Wow.
Because the banks are refusing to let them have access to their money. Their currency, I can't remember what country it is, but their currency has inflated 170% in the last year.
Beirut.
And they shut down allowing people to take out their money. Ask those people how valuable it is to not have a centralized banking system. Ask them what they think about their government thinking that their money is safest behind a banking wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like Lebanese depositors smash up and burn Beirut banks. This is from today.
Lebanese, yep.
So Lebanon, in the capital there, Beirut. So, wow.
But my whole point is, this is what Gary's doing. Gary is saying, guys, crypto's not trustworthy. Trust us to take care of your money. We're going to get you some really good custodians, a.k.a. banks, to hold your crypto for you. Mm-hmm. And guess who works very closely with government systems? And guess what? As we're working closer towards these CBDCs, which are very similar to things that's already happening in China, where there's this point system, and you can literally be prevented from leaving the country or going places based on your point system and how well you cooperate with the government. So this is something that people need to be. I understand why you were not afraid of it just yet, but it's the concept of it. The concept that this could be something we see here in the next couple of years should cause us to be on the aggressive right now, contacting our congressmen, contacting our representatives, letting them know how absolutely against this we are. And then, again, not that I'm a one item voter, but this is big when we're looking at elections coming up in the next couple of years. Who is for these types of movements and who is against it? Because this is literally there's already a lot of question marks about what freedom really is, even in the Western hemisphere. But these are the types of things. What we do with our money have massive implications on what freedom looks like down the road. So this should not be something we just dust off our feet and can just continue on and be like, all right, it's whatever. Yeah. I'm not saying lose sleep over it. I'm not saying make it your entire life, but paying attention to it and being adamant about it and being aggressive and saying, you know what, I'm going to reach out to my representatives. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to make sure I'm up to date and a part of the team that stops this from happening. That is something we all need to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, unfortunately,
we did not get to 110.
Unfortunately, we did not get to 110. We got close, so the Beamer stories will have to wait until maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. By the way, I just got an update. I am going to be on Around the Blockchain tonight.
Oh, cool.
I just got an email. They guys said a spot open up, so make sure tonight check me out there. Then tomorrow, I won't be on the show tomorrow. I do have a work event, but I should be on unless something crazy happens. I should be on Paul Barron's show tomorrow around 1 o'clock, I believe.
Yeah.
So take a look at work. You got some big collaborations coming. Got some other big stuff coming in the works that we hopefully have announcements on next week. Before I end up the show, though, Tisha, you have any thoughts?
I do not have a guest for tomorrow, so I will be doing it alone, which I'm comfortable with. It's fine. Yes. In the Discord, if you are a member, DM me. And let me know if you wanted to come on and show a little TA or talk about a major issue that you're passionate about. We might have a little bit of an audience takeover Friday. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm well equipped. I've been zooming people in left and right. You've seen Army on. You've seen Caleb on this week. We've been having a lot of fun. I've got to get a new system here. So just send me a DM. Let me know if you're interested, and let me know what you would want to talk about. And just know that you may not be on for the entire show, like Army and Caleb, but we can more than likely figure something out. I'm really excited to do something like that. So I'm going to throw it back over to Tim, and we'll close out the shoe.
Well, guys, it was a pleasure being back for a day before I take another hiatus tomorrow. But I love each and every single last one of you guys. If you guys are excited about what the future of the Investing Bros looks like, go ahead and smash that like button on the way out. Make sure if you're in the Patreon and you're a gold or diamond member, you check out our AMA today, 3 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss it. With that said, though, we love all of you guys, and we will see you tomorrow. You guys have a great day.